back to another episode of the Jesus Cartel. With me, as usual, Mr. Clay Russell. Clay, how are you doing?
Man, life is good. It really is. Everything's going really well, and I feel great and ready for this episode of Jesus Cartel.
Yeah, right before we came on camera, Clay was telling me how fatigued he is. And I promised I would start the episode with that, and now I have, so I'm not a liar.
In that sense. No, I really don't feel any fatigue at all. No. I feel great.
It has been 2 weeks since we filmed.
Yes.
I was gone last week, and so we did a best of episode. We redid the episode with Elena, your second daughter. Did I say that right?
My youngest daughter.
Youngest daughter, is that what we go with?
That's
Youngest
right.
daughter? Dang it.
That's right.
One of these days I'm gonna nail that. But yeah. What I miss?
So
It's been 2 big weeks. So it's not
so basically the whole time you were gone, we didn't do anything. We just acted like it didn't exist at all, and everything. No, we've had some good times. We got some intakes coming in right now at Fresh Start. We've had good times at Thrive. We had a little 4th of July party at the house, and so we've had a lot of things going on, and but nothing, nothing crazy or anything. Just staying busy.
Everybody said the food was phenomenal. Said Mike did a really good job. At least that's what I was told.
Talking about here, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what party.
Which could be false.
No.
They could be Mike.
Mike did a good job.
Making that up.
Mike made a good move. He came to me and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do it?"
He seems like a guy with a lot of wisdom.
And I was very glad that he did that.
Can I tell you something crazy about Mike?
Yep.
This morning in my class, he was trying to borrow a pen from somebody, and the guy would not let him
Really?
borrow his pen. I thought that was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
Why do that? But I don't know.
So Mike asked the wrong person.
I don't know, man. It seemed like the other guy's deal. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put his name out there.
Well, I'm
and
just
put him on
saying.
blast,
But probably that guy probably didn't just become like that. He's probably has a nature of that. And Mike living with him should have known that this is just a bad seed.
Yeah.
There's times where you just got to cut people out of your life completely.
Yeah.
And if they can't let you borrow a pen, you really should have known that before. Because you think about it. If he would have recognized this bad element in this, particular person and just shut himself off from that ahead of time, then he wouldn't have embarrassed himself by the teacher seeing that he couldn't borrow a pen.
That makes sense.
So Mike should have done a better job of finding out who to hang out with.
Yeah, Mike, might be time to cut that guy out.
Yeah, 100%.
Give that some consideration.
Right. And if we need to cut him out, we can too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something big has happened in your life in the last 2 weeks. We talking about it? We not talking about it? I can not talk about it just as easy as I can talk about it.
I'm trying to think about what it is.
Yeah, you went on a road trip. You had to wear a suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I don't know if we're talking about it or not.
No. I was trying to think about what we're talking about because
2 weeks in our life is a lot moves in 2 weeks. I get it. Yeah.
It does. So a lot of. I'm trying to think of how much to say there.
We don't have to say anything.
No, the pictures were here.
Were they?
No, yeah. The road trip happens in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but the pictures were
So
here.
I was confused by that because I thought that you said that you might miss me preaching.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
a couple weeks from now.
And
but
that's
then I
when it
saw
is.
all the pictures while I was gone, and I was like, okay, I guess he just had his dates wrong.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
what it is.
That
And,
makes way more sense. I'm
no,
glad we talked about this now.
So a quick story because we haven't even really told anybody outside of, put it on social media. But what happened was the governing body for all the alcohol and drug counselors in Louisiana is called the LAADRA, and they have a board. And so that board sets the policies for the drug and alcohol counselors at every level for the whole state of Louisiana. And that office that runs down in Baton Rouge is a little difficult sometimes to maneuver. You know, if you're from here, you don't know them. It's not a big office; it's a small office, and they're only open 4 days a week, and so it's kind of hard to navigate. And so there's been times where I needed some help and everything, and I didn't know who to talk to, didn't know how to communicate that or anything. And then I realized they had a board. The issue with the board is it's not ever changing. Once you get on the board, you're kind of there, and there's not, even though it's the board over the alcohol and drug counselors, 5 of the 8 members are physicians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so they're not anybody I know. You know, they're not anybody that I would run in contact with. And there was one guy out of Monroe who's great, but I didn't know him at the time, and so it was hard to get anything done. And so anyhow, a friend of a friend of a friend knew him, and once we connected with him, then everything I needed to happen happened. And so I was like, man, this board has got some stroke and they got some power and stuff. And so anyhow, but I got nominated by LASAC, which is kind of like the fraternity of alcohol and drug counselors. I got nominated by them back in November to be on the LAADRA board, and then it just got approved by the governor and stuff. And so I don't know how many they selected. I got another email yesterday. It had 4 of us on there. So it's either 4 or 5 new members. So I'm hoping there's some more licensed addiction counselors are getting added to the board, because I think that we're the best people to be able to represent and decide what needs to happen, you know, within our community. Yeah. So I did just get appointed by Governor Landry to the Louisiana Alcohol and Drug Regulatory Authority Board, and I'll be starting that. My first meeting is the day before you preach at Thrive Church.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, praise the Lord.
Yep.
Do you happen to know how many people are on the board as a whole, like roughly?
It was 8.
Okay.
So I'm not sure they're taking anybody off. I think the bylaws say it could go up to 12.
Okay.
And I think there's 4 of us, so they may not be taking anybody off. They may just be adding us.
Okay.
I was originally told in November that they submitted 15 names, and the governor's office would pick 5.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's the way it ended up or not.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
Congratulations.
Excited about that, and here's why. Because everything I need is already done. We found ways to do it. But as far as other people, you know, we need a voice up here in North Louisiana, especially Northeast Louisiana, that can help people like that. Right. Because I'm gonna be honest, I mean, I've built some notoriety down there now through my efforts and different things. And so now, you know, somebody's information may be sitting there for 2 or 3 months, and I can literally send an email and they'll check it that day.
Yeah.
You know, well,
you've
now
won
I'll be on the board.
Counselor of the Year or Supervisor of the Year each of the last, 3 years?
3 years. Through their organization, you know, through LASAC and their stuff. So that helps.
Yeah, I imagine it does.
Yeah, it does.
And so, man, that's super exciting. And, you know, there's all kinds of different opportunities and things like that in life that come along, but you never, when you start these kind of journeys, we usually don't picture ourselves ever getting to that kind of place. You know what I mean? Where you actually have some sway and some major influence. But it's especially helpful for programs like ours. Like you said, we don't really need anything. But there are other programs like ours, but we're kind of a niche program. Right. You know what I mean? A long-term faith-based program. That's not the majority of programs. Most of the programs are these, you know, 30-day, you know, Medicaid-only kind of facilities, and so most of the attention kind of is geared towards that type of thing. And so just to have a voice that runs a different type of program, I think is going to be wildly helpful for the whole, just because you'll have some perspectives that are much different than a lot of people probably are familiar with. And so,
yeah, and I agree. And then the other side of it is, or another part of it is that, you know, you got all these people that we know that were counselors in training, you know, went through it, and now they're counselors and stuff that I help supervise and everything. Well, you know, they don't know all these things, you know, and everything. And so we've been able to really help them. And so whether it's, you know, April that's at a 20-day program, or Slade and Sierra that's, you know, at drug court, or Ryan that's here or whatever, we've been able to help so many different people because we kind of got it figured out now. Well, not everybody knows how it works, and not everybody understands all that. So God has used us in an amazing way. So we're happy to be able to continue that and be able to continue it on a little larger scale. Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
I went to church camp. Took 21 students, I think,
Okay.
to church camp. Had a lot more signed up. Had some that kind of bailed out last minute over ball playing things, which is normal church camp time. And so we took a great group. Had a fantastic week. A lot of spiritual progress. I think we got 5 baptisms coming up,
Okay.
from our group, which is huge. And had our first service last night since camp, and it was like a different group. It was
Amen.
like nothing we've ever done. And I don't mean that in the sense of when you go to camps, you go to retreats, different things like that, and not just with kids, with adults, whatever. What you see a lot of times, they end up being largely emotional experiences. Well, here's the problem with emotional experiences. When the emotion wears off,
Yeah.
you just kind of revert back to whatever you were doing before. And so retreats, church camps, all these things, they can carry a bad reputation for that reason, like not genuine change. It's like, oh, well, you have this emotional moment. And I've heard people say things like, well, you take kids out, take them to another state or far away, you keep them up all night for a week, and then basically they paint it like it's some sort of emotional manipulation tactic. And now I will say this. There's some validity to that concern. There is. I can't say that just the raw data of what they're saying isn't factual. I believe that there is a lot of response that happens as a result of those things. Now, there's a difference in that being a byproduct of those things and that being the intention of those things. That's not the intention. Nobody who's planning camp, as somebody who worked for the executive staff of one of those camps for a very long time, we're not trying to figure out how we can keep the kids up later so that they'll hit a deeper point of exhaustion later in the week so that we can really manipulate them in it. Like, that's not happening, But it's a camp. There's a lot going on. With students, activities are a big thing. So just the natural byproduct of that can be exhaustion. So, but as a result of that, raw data included, there is a lot of emotional decision making that happens at these camps. What I was so pleased with my students was there was none of that. These were calculated decisions. And I've been doing camp as a leader since 2013, so a long time. And I went as a student before that. And so I've been in church camps for a long time. I have a very clear sight for the difference between an emotional and a calculated decision. The students I brought are more mature students compared to a lot of the groups I've brought in the past. These were calculated decisions.
Amen.
And I was wildly pleased with that. And so while we were at the camp, we restructured our entire Wednesday night service, and I let them do it. I said, forget everything you know. Forget everything we've done. If it was custom built for you, how would you build it? If you were in charge, what would you do? And for 2 hours, we sat there, and one of my female leaders took notes, and we went through, and I implemented as much of it as I could last night, just off jump. Couldn't get to everything right away, but as much as we could implement, we implemented right away. And it was like a whole different situation last night. It was reverent in all the right ways, but it was still fun. We still, enjoyed the company of one another. We still laughed. But we got into the Word. We got into the depths of things. The small groups were different, and the hangout afterwards was different. It's just really hitting another gear with these students and trying to make them more than spectators. And that's one of the big things that I'm on right now, trying to teach the people I'm encountering, is Christianity is not a spectator sport.
Amen.
You were drafted as a player. You know what I mean? You don't get drafted to watch the games. You get drafted to play the games. So you've been selected. You've been elected to participate. Yeah. When you get elected to a position, it's to work in that position. You've been elected by the Lord. It's to work in the position that He has you in. It's not to watch. And so there is only one type of Christianity, and it is participatory. It is not spectator. And so if you find yourself in a spectator sport version of Christianity, you're really not involved in Christianity. I don't know exactly how to define what you're doing. Maybe we'll call it social Christianity, where you want to identify with the principles and the values of it, but you're not actually a member of it. It's kind of like at McDonald's. Like you can order the club sandwich without being part of the club, but it's different. You know what I mean? You're not an employee, and so just want to encourage anybody who feels like they're just kind of playing spectator to Christianity and to the church. Like, man, it's time to do something about that. Like, make a move. What's your all-in move look like? I know what mine looks like at the stage that I'm in life right now. Your all-in move doesn't look like mine. You don't need to run a ministry in Pakistan right now, but you might be ready to be a door greeter. And if you can be faithful in being a door greeter, and you can rub elbows with some of these other spiritual men who are around the church while you're greeting people, what you will find is you will get more trained and more equipped through those relationships. And then, a little bit down the road, you might go from door greeter to Sunday school assistant.
Right.
And now you're sitting in a Sunday school class. You're not the primary teacher, but you're learning from the teacher. And when the teacher goes on vacation or has something that he's got to go do or gets sick, man, you step into that role. And then after that, for a little while, maybe you have your own class a little while. And so it's like, this is the stair-stepping of Christianity. And so everybody's all-in move doesn't look the same. You know where you are.
Right.
And you need, it's time for you to make whatever that move is. I used this analogy in a class the other day, and I was like, I don't know if I should use gambling analogies in class, but we got to push all the chips to the center here. And I was talking to the youth last night, and we were reading in Romans 12, just 1 and 2. There's a lot of depth in just those two verses, by the way. But it says, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice. Well, here's the thing you got to understand about a sacrifice. A sacrifice dies. When you sacrifice a lamb, a bull, or whatever, it dies there. You don't offer up some of its blood and then try to save it. You don't put pressure on the wound and bandage it up. It doesn't get to ever be a bull again. It never gets to be a lamb again. It dies in this place. So it's saying like, hey, offer yourself as a living sacrifice. It's saying, hey, you got to die here. Whatever aspirations Andrew had, those have to die in this moment, right? Now it's a living sacrifice. But it's Christ that makes us alive. Mm-hmm. I don't keep myself alive. I don't, hey, I'm going to offer some of this to you. I'm going to give you some of my blood as a sacrifice you can use in whatever way you need to. But I'm going to keep myself alive so I can still be Andrew when I want to be Andrew. It's like, no. I no longer live. Christ lives in me. Like that is life now. And so presenting yourself as a living sacrifice is a true death to self. In a full death to self. And I don't think that people really appreciate that scripture for what exactly it's urging you to do. And 12:2 we'll jump off into another day, but it's there's something there, man.
Well, the first thing, as far as stepping up and doing those things and being drafted as a player, I saw a Facebook post that I made 2 years ago that propped up in my memories. And I was reading a book called Jesus on Leadership, which is a book I know that you've read before. Mm-hmm. And this was 2 years ago. So thinking about where I was at 2 years ago and what was going on. And it basically talked about how, we got these people on the sidelines that are ready to get into the game. Mm-hmm. And they're ready to go, but they need a coach or a leader or whatever that's going to help put them out there. Mm-hmm. If not, they're going to go find one that they can. And so when you talk about getting your people more involved and stuff, you got a couple of different kinds of people there. You got people that know they're ready and people that need to be told that they're ready. Mm-hmm. The people that know they're ready, if you don't put them in the game pretty quick, then they're going to go find somebody that will. The people that don't know, then, hey, their talents are just going to go by the wayside because they don't know that they're ready and they need your help. Now that wasn't in the book. That's just, something that God is showing us. And so for you, getting them involved, whether they realize they're ready or not, is a huge thing. Yeah. It's a big deal. We had Destiny Halsey sing for the first time last night. She has sang back up a couple times, sang with some other people a few times. But we had her sing last night for the very first time, by herself. Mm-hmm. And she absolutely killed it. But we didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't
Did she
know.
sing in the service last night?
Yeah.
Service?
Uh-huh.
Oh, snap,
And,
dude. That's
and
awesome.
I'll tell you about that. So we didn't know. And so what we did was, you know, and you know part of this, but we brought her in on Tuesday. We either practice on Mondays or Tuesdays to get ready for Wednesdays. And so we brought her in on Tuesday because Monday wasn't available. Monday would have been a better day, but it wasn't available. So we bring her on Tuesday. And the girl that's for sure going to lead Wednesday night, we bring her in 45 minutes later. So we're going to work with Destiny. She's never sang, you know, in front of anybody like this before. She's never led by herself. And we know that she has a heart for it. We know that God's called her to it. But we just don't really know if she can sing or not.
Yeah.
I mean, point blank, just really don't know.
Sure.
And so we sent her a list of songs. She's picked her favorites out of that. Made a Spotify list, and then the ones that she thinks she's ready on, she put a green check by. So I take that list, she had sent it to me, I pull music before she gets there, I look at it, I try to, you know, figure out which ones are the easier ones, which ones are we used to playing in the same key that she does, because I mean, I want her to succeed. So I do all that I can do to help with that, but at the end of the day, she's got to, you know, be able to do that. And so here we are. And, you know, we're on stage with acoustic guitar, bass, and a drum box, and her. There is a singer that's a really good singer in the crowd, and her dad. You know, this is just practice, but in the pew. But we want to see if she can get it on her own. And so here we start the very first song on Tuesday practice to see if she can sing or not. And after the first 3 notes, I knew that she could sing. You know, but I let her get through the verse. You know, so she did to come in by herself. She hits the right notes by herself, and then let her get through the chorus. And our guitar player missed a couple notes on the chorus, and she sang what she was supposed to sing. She didn't let that mess her up. And so at the end of the chorus, I stopped the song and I said, "Hey, look, just want to let you know that we just established the fact that you can sing."
Yeah.
We didn't know. You didn't know. We didn't know. We wasn't sure.
Right.
We hoped so, you know, and everything. But now we know that you can sing. So all this nervousness, all this, you know, yada, 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 I just want you to know you can throw all that behind you. You don't have to worry about any of that. All this, you know, concern and anxiety, we can throw all that because you can sing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're probably not the only one that had that. Your dad probably had it. We probably had it, you know, because we didn't know.
Yeah.
But now we know, you know. And then so I said, okay, let's start the song over now that we know that you can sing, you know. And so we started over, played it all the way through. And I was like, you could practice that song 100 times and not do it any better than you did it right now.
Yeah.
And then so then the next song, we went to a song that was a little harder that she had done. And she nailed it, you know. And then we went to a song that she's been practicing in one key, but we played in a different key. And we didn't tell her that. And we just, so she's fixing to sing it different than she's ever sang it before. And she nailed it. And so it's like, now we got a singer. Now, 30 minutes before, we had somebody on the sideline,
Right.
doesn't know, doesn't have a clue, you know, those kind of things. And so anyhow, last night, I mean, it was so good Tuesday that we gave her one of the spots to lead last night.
Yeah.
And she did, and she
24
nailed
hours
it.
later.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she nails it, you know. And already
Do you know
signed
what
her
she
up.
sang?
Yeah, Goodness of God.
Awesome.
Now, the issue with Goodness of God is this. It's a 3-minute and 10-second song. It's a short song. You know, it's just, you got the 2 verses, the chorus, and the bridge, and it comes back and repeats the chorus. But it's a short song. 3 minutes and 10 seconds for a worship song. You know, it's short. And but last night, she was so good that they did it in 50 seconds. So our 2 guitar players last night, grown men helping out at the youth service, basically put their head down and played as fast as they possibly could, as hard as they possibly could, and somehow she stuck with it. And they did a 3-minute song in 50 seconds, and she nailed it.
This is a true story?
It's a true story.
50 actually.
You know, it's a little exaggerated, but I'm telling you, it was the fastest version of Goodness of God that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Like that?
It was faster than that.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and even when they got to the bridge, they did not slow down. So, anyhow, it is what it is, but they nailed it, and she nailed it, and she did great.
Do we have a recording of it that I can watch?
Well, I didn't. Jimmy, we had to ask Jimmy.
I would love to
Jimmy
see
might
it.
have.
I would love to see
but
it.
Here's the other side
Impressive, though.
of it.
Like, wildly impressive.
Wildly impressive.
Yeah.
Wildly impressive.
For her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so
Not for the guitar
Cooper's
players.
texting me, and he goes, I can't believe that just happened. You know, Cooper's like, I've never seen anything like that. And so anyhow, so I texted her and told her that. But here's the other side, okay? So Tuesday night, once we realized she could sing, she's coming off the sideline. She's coming right into the game, right?
Yeah,
I mean, she's coming immediately into the game. And not only are we bringing her immediately to the game, but we've already decided that she's leading a song in big church on Sunday morning, not this week, but next week. You know, and so we've already made that decision. And then here's what she says. She says, well, look, because she runs the computer for the church and stuff. And she says, well, look, we do need to raise up somebody else to be able to do that, because a couple of the people that do it, one of them is Vanessa, and Vanessa's supposed to be great. I mean, going to college, different stuff. She said, we do need to raise up somebody else. And I said, well, I like to use somebody, she said, maybe a junior high boy or something, because we have a lot of those and they'll be around for a long time. I said, well, I like to use somebody that may have aspirations of being on the praise team one day, because they focus a little more and they think a little more. And, a lot of people wouldn't, because you might have to swap them out soon. But at the same time, that's not my deal. So I like to use people that may have aspirations to be on the praise team one day. So we chose David Michael.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah, so we chose David Michael, and he's going to be a freshman, and he's learning how to play bass guitar, and learning how to play a little acoustic and stuff. And so, so I text him Tuesday night, hey, would you like to, do this? And he said, sure. And then I told him why, because Destiny was going to lead, and he was just beside himself. I mean, he was so happy about it because, Destiny got promoted.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so here he is, now he gets a role, but yet he sees somebody else getting promoted that he cares about, and now he's thrilled. Because he knows what that means. Number one, and he knows that it means she can sing, and that's something great. And number two, there's promotions available, and stuff. And so when you're a leader, when you're trying to do things, you need to realize these things. You got some people on the sideline that some of them don't realize that they're ready. But regardless, it's your job as a leader to put them in the right positions and to help them get ready if they're not ready.
Did your mic cut off?
No, it's still red.
Something weird happened. I think you bumped the table and it did a thing.
I can stay away from it.
I don't know.
Think it's good now?
Hard to tell. All right. Well, I don't know whether or not that made any sound or not, but we got it back now. We'll give her a little... just so I can line her back up.
There you go. But as a leader, you have to recognize these qualities in people, or if not, they're not going to let you lead them.
That's right.
So by us, you think about it right now. We have a really strong singer in Marbeth on Wednesday nights. We don't have to have another singer right now. We have a real strong one in Marbeth. But at the same time, we got one that's very committed that we think maybe she can. So what do? We try it out. Hey, it works great. And what does that do? That gives us another singer, but now it raises somebody else up.
Well, I mean, and that's echoed throughout everything you've ever done in ministry. And that's the way that it works. It's the only way that it works. If you want any sort of longevity, you can't build a church on yourself. You can't build a church on a talent. Church is about Jesus. It's not about a talent. He might have the best preacher in the world, but you better rotate him out. Because otherwise the church becomes about him. And what happens when he dies? What happens when he retires? What happens when the Lord calls him to be a missionary in Africa? Well, your church dies because your church wasn't about Jesus, it was about this pastor. And so it's a very dangerous thing to do. What happens when people can't worship because, well, this singer's not as good as our other singer? And it's like, oh, I guess we were never worshiping the Lord. I guess we were worshiping this dude or this lady.
Yep.
Like, it's wildly dangerous.
Well, and then you got the groups that are just reactive. Okay, so yeah, we'll put some people in positions, but only when a position becomes available, and now they're reactive. Well, that's problematic in itself also, So we got to be proactive in these things and realize, I looked at something the other day. Our last service that we had at Thrive on Sunday, 5 people spoke for at least 2 minutes or more in an hour and 10-minute long service.
Yeah.
They all had different roles. They all had different things. And we could have shifted any of those things around. Any of those 5 could have preached that day.
Yeah.
Any of those 5 could have done the other parts and stuff. And I just love stuff like that.
Well, I mean, you're the only staffed pastor at Thrive, really.
Right.
I mean, you got a youth pastor, but people who don't understand youth ministry, it's a whole other thing. It's not the same as having a staffed pastor that's like really at the church and doing all of the things. A youth pastor in most places is like, that's what they do. They're not really asked to do a whole lot of other stuff. But I know you've had Tyler Dean preach. Jeff has preached. I'm coming to preach.
Ryan preached part of the message
and I'm
last
not
week.
even going to. I don't even go to the church. The
Right.
church we're connected through mutual relationships and mutual work that we're doing. But it's like they don't need anyone else to preach.
Right.
You preach well, but that's not. You don't build a ministry like that's not.
right.
That's not what you do. And I think I've said it on here before. I won't over elaborate on it. But there's a guy named Francis Chan. If you've never heard of him. Fantastic pastor. He's written some books that are just some of my favorite books I've ever read. And I have so much respect for him because he recognized that his church had started worshiping him. Obviously not physically, but he realized that he had reached a point where if he wasn't preaching, the people weren't coming. And there was such a drastic difference. And he was like, oh, this is not good. And he left.
Yeah.
He walked away from thousands of people church because he was like, this is not good. I'm not meant to be an idol, He just walked away from it.
Yep.
It's like, wow, you know what I mean? It's like, that's someone who gets the mission. That's someone who understands the point of what we're supposed to be looking at. And so of all the people I've ever wanted to meet, he's number one on that list.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a 2-minute conversation with him, if nothing else, just to tell him how much I admired that move. And he'd probably hate that I told him that, but it's just one of those things, man. And so I thought your analogy was great. I thought you brought the fullness of the analogy of people who are ready to play and people who want to coach. I'm talking more on the other side of there's a lot of people who don't want to play and they just want a uniform.
Right.
They just want to be on the football team. But if you look at them to go in the game, they'll poop themselves. That's not what they're looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want the admiration of being on the football team without the sacrifice of being on the football team. And I think a lot of Christianity is in that place. And so between those two places, and then you got your starters, and you know who those people are.
Yep.
Those are the ones that carry the weight. But here's the deal: if you can get some other people to rotate in there, your starters will be better. They'll be more fresh. There's nothing like having a fresh arm come in as a pitcher. If I got to throw every inning of every game, dude, I'm not good that long.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if we got fresh arms that can pop in and rotate in, and I can every time I go in, I'm fresh. Man, that's top tier.
Well, and people see stuff like that. The starters, a true starter with a good mentality there, because like I said, we're it's all about serving the Lord. They love to see other people come in and do stuff. I saw an interview this morning with Paul Skeens, the Pirates, and did you see that this morning?
I shared it with the guy that hit all the home runs.
Yeah, so he's got a guy that had 3 home runs and 12 RBIs last night or whatever, and they're like, well, what'd you think about that? And it's like, man, he's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
He's just making a joke. He's like, man, you hit a home run, it's like a rally killer, because
nobody's on base.
Nobody's on base
No momentum.
anymore, whatever. All the runs are knocked in.
Yeah.
now we got to start it all over
Yeah.
again. But and he was being funny there, but leaders like to be around other people like that. Starters like to be around starters, and people like to. They like to serve and know that they're doing right and be surrounded by other people that are like that. But, just to address the group of people that you're talking about that kind of want to be Christians by name only, if you haven't had that moment in your life where you just completely sold out, man, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
If you hadn't had that moment where you truly died to self, made that living sacrifice like Andrew talked about, you don't know what you're missing. But here's my question is, why haven't you? What is so good to hold on to that's better than doing what God's called you to do?
100%. Great question.
Yeah.
So this is the perfect segue into, and we've also talked for a while, so we won't have to beat this to death.
Yeah.
This is the perfect segue into pastor fatigue, because pastor fatigue is the topic that I want to address today, because 2 weeks ago we were going to talk about it, but we went so far into imposter syndrome we just didn't really get to touch it. Pastor fatigue, first off, there's a type of pastor fatigue that I'm firmly against, and I hate to even say I'm against things, but there are some pastors out there that just cry about how hard their life is. I'm not for that.
Amen.
I'm not for that. There is a movement within the pastorship that we are seeing. I'm just going to say this out loud. This is going to upset some people. There's a lot of weak pastors out there.
I agree.
Pastoring is not for the weak. It is not for a weak man. It's just not. You better have a strong mindset, or you're going to get ate alive. There's a strong movement within the pastorship today where we see a lot of the pastoring has become they're like a self-help rally group. I hate it. I can't stand to be around them. It just I shouldn't feel like I don't fit in a room full of pastors, but there are a lot of rooms full of pastors. If you're sitting there complaining to me all day about your congregation, let me save you some time, brother. You're not for me.
Yeah.
You're not for me. Look, we all got difficult people to deal with in our churches. And I've worked at some churches where there was more difficult people than favorable people. I've been in both places, but you'll never hear me complain about them. It's not because complaints aren't available. They're wildly available. But my job is to love these people well. And if you're just telling me how wounded you are at every turn, like, dude, you're no help to them, right? If the Lord is not sufficient for you, that's not a good thing. And yes, it's great when you check on your pastor. I would encourage you to do those things. But if your pastor can't survive without you checking on him, then he's not dipping from the well. He's not dipping from the well of the Lord. And I'm not going to retract any of that.
Amen.
I'm not going to curtail it any. I've lived through some of the most difficult pastoring situations that one can imagine. I'm friends with people who've been through just the ringer in pastoring, and none of these men, regardless of the difficulty of the situations, ever came to me and talked about how broken and they don't know if they can go on anymore. But that's a lot of what's happening in the church right now.
Yeah.
And so these imposter pastors have slipped in there, and really they're just self-help teachers. And they don't have that firm foundation in the Lord. And so I'm not for that type of fatigue. I want to make that clear. That's not what we're talking about, is a pastor just being desperate and broken and
Well, some of those people, they're just too emotional to begin with.
Yeah.
They're emotionally driven. And as a pastor, that's the last thing you need is an emotionally driven pastor. You very rarely will know what I'm going through by the way I preach, unless God specifically says, hey, it's time to let them in on it.
Yeah. Emotional drive leads to emotional responses.
Yes.
And look, people are going to take swings at you, dude. I just going to tell you, if you're ever considering going into the ministry, be prepared to get swung on without warning. It don't have to be true. It don't have to be even in the ballpark of true.
Right.
People are going to take shots at you if they feel hurt or wounded in any way. It don't matter. They're going to go for you.
Hurt people.
And so you better not have your feelings on your sleeves, because if you do, Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's just not for you. So when we say pastor fatigue, I want to make clarification. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not talking about your ability to complain about the people you're called to serve. The pastor fatigue that I deal with personally is when I'm pouring into people, the same people in particular, who are telling me they genuinely want change, they genuinely want something different. And we go through an extended period of time where we're counseling, we're having conversations regularly, but they're not doing the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, what do? I want to see change here. I want to see something different in my marriage. I want to see something different in my relationship with the Lord. And it's like, okay, brother, well, here's where we start that process. Because rarely do we have the full picture of the complete answer, but we know where we can begin that process. And as we begin a process, things will become more clear along the way. You know what I mean? Like building a perfect workout for a person, just by looking at you the first time I ever see you, I'm not going to be able to write that out. But if we'll start small, I can see where you're strong, I can see where you're weak, we can build something from there. And so as a pastor, a lot of times my advice is, hey, let's start in these small places. Let's be faithful, let's be obedient in these small places. And they don't. And so it's like they come back to you and you encourage, hey, where are we on this? Have we started this yet? Are we doing this? Are we being faithful here? And they're like, and they'll just kind of kick the can around. But the answer is no, I've not done any of the things we talked about. And so I encourage them again, hey, look, man, this is where we got to start. And we got to get going in these places. And then, another month or two rolls by and there's still no, I don't know, this isn't working. And it's like, well, have you done the things yet?
Right.
And it's like, no, I haven't done any of the things. It's like, well, there's nothing to work then if you're not. And so that's where I find that true pastors end up getting fatigued, is when they're pouring the fullness of themselves into a situation, but no one is taking heed to anything that's being poured in. That can be exhausting. That can be exhausting. Have you ever experienced?
Oh yeah, and that's I didn't know exactly where you want to go with this, but that was one of the directions that I want to make sure that we hit. There's a couple of them, but that was one of them. It's just because, as a pastor, and just as a leader in general, and a disciple maker that makes disciples and stuff, I take a lot on, and a lot of people see that, and they're like, man, nobody does as much as you do, or this or that, and that kind of stuff. And it's, we're able to take a lot on because we layer it and stuff.
Right.
But none of that bothers us. Everything that we took on, we take on calculated. We took it on at different levels. We added it at the right times. We let, God lead that and not ourselves. But where it does become too much is when it's not working.
Yeah.
And the main reason why it's not working is because the people that you're trying to help are not receiving what you're trying to give them. I mean, that's it. I mean, me listening to the Lord is easy. Me following God's plan for my life is easy. Those things aren't hard. Working hard, loving people, doing what God's called us to do, those things really aren't difficult. They're not difficult at all. Where it becomes difficult is when you hear from the Lord, you give it to the people, and they refuse to do it, but yet they still won't go away.
Right, yeah.
They still want to keep coming back for more, but they're not doing anything.
Right.
And so that's where, that version of pastor fatigue can get difficult. Now, the older I get and the more we have going on and stuff like that, the less of that I will allow. Used to, I'd let it suck me in, probably way too deep. But I'm not like that anymore. And a lot of it's just because I don't have time to be like that anymore. Hey, I got a certain amount of spots to do a certain amount of things, and I want, you want one of those spots, that's great. But I'm not going to allow you to take up that spot with all these other people on the sideline if you're not willing to do what I've asked you to do.
That's right.
I mean, you look at like Devin, for instance. Devin is, I started putting a lot of time into Devin.
Yeah.
But it's time where, we're working out and we're hanging out and we're talking and stuff. And he hasn't missed one of those sessions.
Yeah.
You know?
I've seen a lot of growth in Devin because of your intentionality with Devin. He actually came and had a conversation with me, not about anything bad, but just a conversation that would have been uncomfortable for a lot of people to have, because it could have been viewed as something that would have disappointed me. And he came straight to me, sat down in the chair, didn't beat around the bush, said, "Hey man, here's how I'm feeling." And I was in full agreement with what he said. There was no level of disappointment. I said, "Hey man, I think you're correct. I think you're correct, and I think that the move you're saying you need to make is the right move."
Well, here's what's funny about that is he told me about that before he did it, but I didn't have to influence him in any way.
That's right.
He just said, "Hey, this is what I want to do. This is that." I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
I didn't say anything else. I didn't say, "Hey, well, you need to approach it this way, or you need to say this, or you need to come at it from that angle." Didn't have to. He had it all figured out.
It was perfect. It was handled in the most mature, methodical Christian way that it could have been handled, and he's going to get a fantastic result based on that decision.
Yep.
It is the right decision, and the Devin that was in my office yesterday, compared to the Devin that was in my office 6 months ago or
Right.
longer, it's like wow. And so super proud of him.
Yeah, so we've been specifically, putting in training with him and stuff now, I think for 6 or 7 weeks, 5 days a week. So just say 6 weeks, 5 days a week, that's 30 opportunities, and he's not missed any of them.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And then last night I texted him and said, "Hey, do you think you could do this?" It was just a question,
Yep.
And he was at church at a different service that he didn't have to go to. I mean, that was an extra church service he went to last night. And he says, yes. And so this morning, I get there and he goes, "So I figure we're going to do the thing."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Why would you figure that?"
Yeah.
"Well, you asked me if I could do it." I said, "Okay." And then we just kept on and did our regular thing. And then in a little while, I said, "You ready to do the thing?" And he said, "Yeah." He was ready, and so he has grown a lot. And so when you're pouring into somebody and you're seeing results, hey, it's good. It's just like when you're going on a diet and you're doing everything that you know to do, but yet it's not working. It's not, you're not getting the results. Fatigue is going to come in. It just happens.
And when you are getting the results, it's energizing.
Right.
When you're on a diet and you're losing steady weight, dude, you feel on top of the world.
Yep.
And when you're pouring into somebody and you're seeing them mature and grow, it's like, dude, you get excited.
It's a good thing, I mean, like today, let's just say Devin didn't show up today. Well, what I'm doing with Devin is not what I would be doing if he didn't show up. If he didn't show up, I would have done a different workout in the gym that probably would have helped me more.
Yeah, sure.
Because it would have been changing something up. It would have been something that I would have done different, and I wouldn't have been disappointed at all, because I probably would have got a better workout if he didn't show up this morning. But at the same time, he did show up, and hey, we're going to reward that, and we're going to do, what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so, the point is this: it's often not about the amount of work. It's about how much are you getting accomplished.
Yep.
That's all it is. Elena's going through that with her job right now and stuff. Just being a little unsure of what she's supposed to do, or how she's supposed to react, or what's going on here and what's going on there. It has nothing to do with the amount of work. It has everything to do with what are the expectations, what is happening. So here it is. She just found out that her department increased by 6% on their productivity over the last month or so. Well, now all of a sudden, hey, we're great.
Yeah.
Whereas before, the ortho department wasn't doing real well, but it's not supposed to do well. Well, that's hard
doesn't
to
feel good, yeah.
Right. But now the ortho just increased by 6%.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden we got some red.
Different game. Yeah.
And that's a different game. And now, there's nothing that we can't do right now because we got 6% growth, And so if you want to help your pastor, if you want to help your leader, if you want to help those that sowed into you, the very number one thing that you could do is do what they've told you to do.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say causes some pastor fatigue in my life is when you have to do more than you should have to do because the people who are capable and called won't.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily like they're not living right. That's they're just not stepping into their calling.
Yeah.
And so it's like you shouldn't be the pastor of Thrive and also have to be the youth pastor of Thrive and also have to lead the children's ministry at Thrive.
Right.
You shouldn't have to do those three roles because I know all the people in your church and you've got so many people equipped
Yes.
and called to do those things, and I know who they are. And so when you're having to stretch yourself, not because you chose to stretch yourself, but because other people's disobedience to what God's calling them to is forcing you to stretch yourself, you could actually be doing less and feel more fatigued.
Yes.
Because in your mind, you're plagued by the knowledge of, this is not where my time is best spent.
Yep.
This is not where I'm supposed to be right now, but I have to be here because the people who should be here won't be here.
Yeah.
That can weigh on you. And so
So I can mow my yard, right? And I can mow my yard, but it's going to take me 6 to 7 hours to mow my yard
Right.
when I could be doing something else. But then there's other people that aren't doing any of what I'm doing that know how to mow a yard just as good as I do, or maybe even better than I do. And if they team together, they could get it done in an hour and a half
Yeah.
with those 4 people, and then the world would be a lot better place.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to do it, then I got to step up and do it. Well, guess what? 6 to 8 hours worth of stuff that I would have been doing for the kingdom of God can't get done now because now I'm having to mow my yard, which only helps my yard.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody else.
I was talking to my wife about that. I think it was yesterday. Because, my wife is someone who just always wants to be serving well. Especially me. Like, she wants to serve the Lord well. She wants to serve her children well. She wants to serve me well as a wife. And she hates, I don't want to say hates. That's a bit of a stretch. She is not fond of how low maintenance I am. Because in her mind, it's hard to do things for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to beg my wife to do anything for me because, I know how to fix my own plate. You know what I mean? I know how to pick up after myself.
Yeah.
I know how to wash my own I know how to do stuff. And so I do things. And so she doesn't get a ton of opportunities to do anything wildly in service to me. And that when I say that bothers her, you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. She's not like crying at the house over it. It's just like she wants to do more for me. And that's what a great thing in a wife. She wants to do more for me. And I was explaining to her, like, hey, what you do allows me to have peace at home. I don't come home and feel the stress of the overwhelming feeling of you're doing so much that to you it's a small thing, but you don't understand what it would do to my mind if it wasn't done. If it wasn't done, it would overwhelm me, and you know me, and you know I would stay up until it was done.
Yep.
There's no version of me that would be able to sleep with these things undone. You taking care of those things is what allows me to have peace.
Yeah.
And that peace is so valuable to me that home can be a place that I can breathe for a second, because my whole life is running after people.
Yep.
Everything in my life is running after people, and it's like, one of the things that I told her is like, sometimes I don't want to say disappointed in myself. It's like sometimes the trick for me is like, I know that I'm a good husband, maybe even a great husband, but I feel like I'm even better when I'm gone.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm an all-star serving the world, and sometimes I feel like I'm just good at serving my family. And it's like, okay, that's not the dynamic I want to set. I want to be an all-star at home too. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, dude, I pray for everybody I run into all day.
Yeah.
I pray for my family not as much as I pray for other people. And it's like that, we had a conversation recently, and that just like thumped me in the head. It's like, hey, brother, like, I know you pray for your family, but like, you don't pray for your family like you pray for everyone else. Right. And I'm like, dang, man, I can make that change easy, And so today, I've already prayed for my family. Before I left the house this morning, first thing that I did, it's like, okay, this is going to become the new priority as far as how things operate in the home. Like, this is going to be the most prevalent thing that I do. And then it made me think, like, okay, how much am I praying for you? How much am I praying for the staff here and stuff like that? It's like, I pray for you guys, but I don't pray with you guys like I do everyone else.
Right.
I'm good here at Fresh Start, maybe even great, but I'm an all-star out there.
Amen.
I need to be an all-star here. You
Yep.
know, I can't, and it's not, I can be without much more.
You're just tweaking a little
Yeah,
bit.
just a little turn
Yeah,
of the
a
knob.
little focus.
And so it's like, that's what Christians do in their mind.
Yes.
That's what Christians do in their mind. My life, and this is what I was telling my wife last night, and we agreed, like, hey, we got the best family. Like, we love each other. We love our kids. We love the Lord. Our kids love the Lord. Like, what else could we want? But we want more. Mm-hmm. We want more. But it's not a selfish want more. It's not a materials. It's not a possessions. It's like, what is the fullness of God? You know, what is that for us? And so it's like, that's how Christians think.
So yeah, and I got that part figured out, and I know why that mentality is, and we can, and you do too, and we can talk about that in just a second. But you know, complimenting each other and working together is a big deal. You know, we were having a party at the house last Saturday for July the 4th, and TJ Thomas Riles had some time to where he wasn't working and stuff, and so. There was a list of things that, you know, I would like to get done at the house before the party, because I know my wife would like to get it done and stuff. And so I asked Thomas, hey, you got some time? Would you like to go to the house, make a little money, and do these things? And he was like, sure, you know. And so I gave him this list of stuff. He does it all. Well, when I get home, I work just as hard when I got home that as I would have if Thomas wouldn't have never came. He came and he worked for 4 hours at the house, 3 or 4 hours, and did a great job with everything.
Yeah.
But then when I came home, I still did 3 or 4 more hours worth of stuff. But I got to do the stuff that was the cool stuff. It was the stuff that was the icing on the cake stuff. You know, it wasn't the things that Miss Becky said had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the things like moving this over here or setting this up or those kind of things. It wasn't the core things.
The lanyard.
Yeah, it was the better things.
Yeah.
You know, and everything. And it's the same way when the Fresh Start girls, we hire them to come clean our house and everything, and they do the sweeping and the mopping and the vacuuming and all those kind of different things. But then Miss Becky's able to come in and redo this cabinet or throw away these things that's been there for so long, and so she's able to do the extra things and that stuff. And so when ministry's working correctly, it's not so much about, you know, well, I don't have to do as much anymore because so-and-so's doing stuff. It's like, no, I can do the lanyard. I can do the extra things. I can do the over-the-top things because these things are being taken care of.
That's right.
And as a pastor, that feels so great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels so great to be able to do that. I know we don't have much time. There's one more thing me and you've never talked about. It's just kind of on my mind right now.
Sure.
And I think it'll fit in here, and I just want to throw it out there to you and see what you think about it.
Okay.
So we've talked about pastor fatigue and stuff, and this is probably going to go a little more into leadership team fatigue, maybe mindset. And so this is kind of where I want to go, because not, you know, everybody we talk to isn't pastors, but they are, a lot of people are leaders or want to be leaders and stuff like that. What about a church that has maybe a full-time pastor, maybe a full or part-time associate pastor or youth director or something like that, and because the pastor, you know, or pastors are full-time, they spend a lot of time thinking and a lot of time planning and a lot of time wanting to put more stuff in. But have you seen that become problematic to where you got 1 or 2 people that are full-time, they're getting paid by the church, this is what they do, but then they use volunteers, you know, for their services and all that and everything, but yet they start putting too much on them because they keep planning more things. And for them, hey, they're getting paid. You know, this is what they've called to do. But for these volunteers, they're not. And so the pastor wants to keep making everything better and planning more stuff, but they're not doing it on their own. They're having to use volunteers for it. And so have you seen that kind of bite some people in the butt a little bit, that, you know, the person that's hired is doing all the planning, but other people are having to do the work? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And it happens pretty much everywhere. You know, the equivalent would be you got one push mower, and more land's always a good thing, but you got no way to acquire more mowers. You know, and it's like, how many acres you want to push mow, brother? Like, we're going to come to a point where we cannot do everything that, like, we cannot tend everything that we've created. And So having a good culture with your people to create leaders who create leaders, that's huge. But the big thing is like I told you, I just restructured our whole Wednesdays, but I let them do it.
Right.
I let the students do it.
Right.
I didn't do it because for it to work, I needed them to do it. And so I had all kinds of ideas in my mind that they didn't even bring up. And so I didn't use those ideas. I pitched those ideas to see what they thought about them. And some of them, they were like, yeah, I think that we could do that. And some of them, they were like, I don't know. And if they don't know, then it's not time, because they're not going to step into it if they don't feel like it's good and right. And so, I think it's a good thing to have a greeting team and a worship team and a children's team and a youth team and a pastor's team and an umbrella team in case it's raining, and a team at the road. Like, all that's great if you can tend it.
Right.
If it can't be tended, it becomes a source of stress and fatigue on everybody. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you got to learn how to punt ideas.
And can you tend to all that on Sunday morning? But now we need to have two services.
Yeah.
Or now, what about if we had this Friday night service, or for the younger people, or what about if we had this service? And I don't know. It just bothers me because I see some pastors taking on more than they have to.
Yeah.
Taking on more than they have to, and they're dependent on volunteers. Mm-hmm. But then the volunteers are getting worn out and tired and all that, and then it ends up falling back on the pastor.
Yeah.
And then the pastor, gets real pastor fatigue, mm-hmm. and they're like, "Well, why aren't y'all helping? This is the vision. You agreed to this." Well, I understand, but it's just they got full-time jobs, and they got kids. This is your full-time job, right. And you were doing great at it until you kept trying to add so much, and so that it's difficult because we are being transformed into the image of God, and as we're being transformed, we want to change and we want to grow, and we want to help other people do that. But there is a balance there that we need to look at of adding more programs and more ministries and more things.
Two things. One, almost never is the answer to your problem a new ministry. Almost never. There are very rare cases where adding a ministry is going to solve a problem for you. Usually that's a Band-Aid, and where you would never say this out loud, but it's not going to fix the problem, but you're trying to appear like you're addressing the problem. That's usually what that is. I've been in ministry a long time. I'm just telling you, I am behind the curtain. I know what's happening. It won't solve the problem, but you just need to look like you're trying. Yeah. That's usually what that is. The true answer is discipleship within the church. And that structure in most churches is very poor. Yeah. And so if that were done well, if there were true community and true discipleship, most of that stuff would handle itself. So you don't really need a young men's ministry. You need the older men of the church to be intentionally discipling younger men. Mm-hmm. Then the young men's ministry doesn't need to become a thing. Now the men's ministry that you had originally would be sufficient. Yeah. Now the Bible study that you're having with the men on Sunday nights will work. And they won't feel excluded. They won't feel like, well, we're just not really part of that group, because the discipleship tier is there. That's usually the answer, is greater discipleship structure.
But that takes time.
Oh, it's wildly.
People don't like that.
Right.
Because it takes time.
And they think that, okay, well, if we'll just throw this hour service out, that this, we're going to have a Tuesday night young men's meeting, and it's like, for what? You know what I mean? Because that's going to die very quickly. Yeah. You'll have a lot of momentum up front. They're going to be really excited about it. But then the volunteers are going to fall off, because when they agreed to it, they forgot that it's not ball season right now, but ball season's coming up. And so it's like everything's going to change. The whole dynamic will shift from whenever you're planning it. And so that's the first thing, is that it's usually not an answer. It's usually a Band-Aid and something that we've just kind of convinced ourselves in our mind is going to be helpful. The second thing is this. There is an important skill in leadership that some leaders, I don't call them poor leaders because it's what it is. This is not intended to anyone specific. I've seen it in all fields. There's an important skill in leadership that, if overutilized, just shows how poor of a leader you are. Delegation is an important skill in leadership. You have to learn how to delegate tasks. But when you just delegate every task with no mindfulness of of what all
you're
you've delegated
right.
and how much you've delegated to people, that just shows what a poor leader you are.
Yeah.
And so I have seen people over the years in different settings delegate 7 different departments to one guy. It's like, hey, take care of this. 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 And it's like, you've lost track of what all you've put this guy over. And like, you don't understand, he's doing more than you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
you've
And
been
this-
that guy
yeah.
that keeps getting delegated stuff because you'll keep receiving
Sure.
it.
And
Right.
this is your full-time job. This
Right.
is not, this is this guy, he is a volunteer, a full volunteer, $0 toward him, and you got him over 7 different things. And it's like, brother, you don't have 7 things to do.
Right.
And you just keep
or
shoving it
you're
that
paying
way.
him $200 to do this one thing, but now you've given him 6 other things on top of it.
Right. And the mindset with that weak leader is that, well, this is an area that this guy's strong in. It's
So
like,
what?
yeah, it's like, okay, but you've buried him in task.
I'm good at eating Big Macs too.
You know what I mean? You've buried him in task, and now he can do them well because you've given him too much to do. And so delegation is a good thing, but you've got to be mindful of what you've delegated. Like, a good leader has got to be wildly organized. They got to know everything that's going on. You can't be the type of leader that we come up and, hey man, I got everything ready for the event tonight. And you're like, what event? I think we just died again.
Oh, no, it's still real.
I don't know what's happening. Something weird happened though.
We've been going for over an hour anyhow.
Yeah.
Love y'all.